afternoon and welcome to A Taste of VACE. I'm Chef Amy Tyrrell and it's wonderful to have you back in my home kitchen today. Today what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to prepare a beautiful comfort dish, but not in the traditional sense of the Americanized version of things like mashed potatoes and gravy and chicken and dumplings. We're going to do a coconut lime shrimp curry. I'm very excited about this dish. Super simple, comes together in 15 or 20 minutes and is sure to be a crowd pleaser. When I shared with a dear friend of mine I was going to do a coconut lime shrimp curry, she said, "Why in the world shrimp curry in coconut? I hate coconut. Nobody likes coconut." And I had to laugh to myself because I don't really like shrimp. I love shrimp. I don't like coconut very much. We all think of it in that traditional shredded form that comes in cookies and macarons and things like cooked cakes. It's just too sweet, kind of gives that scrunchy feel in your teeth and isn't good. Today what we're going to do is we're going to use coconut milk as the mystery ingredient that carries our sauce and provides unctuousness in our dish. Unctuousness really refers to a coating in your palate, usually covered with fat. I know that doesn't sound good, but we'll talk about that in just a second. That carries all the flavors and carries it all the way through the dish and gives that luxury and that "gee, I want more," as well as that in your tummy satisfaction. So before we get started, what I'd like to be able to do is show you just how easy we can transform rice into a star dish. And that is, today we're going to do a cilantro lime rice. So follow your package directions for your rice. It's a simple 2-to-1 ratio, 2 cups of fluid to 1 cup of rice, a teaspoon of salt. You can jazz that rice up even further by using coconut milk as your fluid, or perhaps a chicken stock or vegetable stock. But today I've stuck just with water because I've got coconut milk in my dish itself. You notice my rice is already back here. I started it before you got here and I'm holding it for us to finish. We talked about how to prepare it. I'd like to talk about actually with you the 2 things that are going to transform this dish. Let's first talk about lime zest. Lime zest or citrus zest is the fine coating of the skin where all the essential oils are. I've already started on this one, so let me show you this side. You notice the white? That's called pith. That's the bitterness. I just want the light green part because that's where the essential oils are. Yum. That's going to bring the flavor out and make this dish so very vibrant. This is a tool known as a microplane. You use it to zest. You can do it to grate cheese. I like to use it actually with hard-boiled eggs to add a light fluff to an egg salad. As my gran used to say, you shouldn't bring a tool into the kitchen unless you can use it for 6 different ways because none of us have enough room to store all that stuff. So this is one of my favorite tools. I just never know when it might come of use. In culinary school, they taught us one way to use it. I, of course, being one of those people who does things exactly the opposite of what I'm told, have decided to do it in a little bit different way. I like to hold the citrus in my hand and then rake over the citrus. This allows me to control the amount of pressure and helps me not run the risk of coming up into that bitterness, and so I really prefer it. The other is as I'm doing this, and I'll show this to you in just a second, it also allows me to have a visual on how much zest I've actually captured. If I was going to add this to a dish right now, I could just take it over and whack it upside down and all's done, and I appreciate that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm simply going to go like this. It's gone from the dish. And here it is saved for me when I need it for my cilantro rice later. The next component is the cilantro. I've just taken a few twigs of it. I've dried it off because, as I talked about in one of our other dishes, is I don't want all the natural oils to go into the board, and that's what happens when it's wet. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to gather them all nicely together, get up on that tip of my knife, and do a nice rough chop. These will wilt a little bit from the heat of the rice, so I'm not real worried about it being absolutely perfect. What I'm looking for is the vibrancy of that color. What I've done is I've simply added it over there to my zest dish, so it's there for me, and I don't have to wonder where it went later. You know, as we talked about last week, what I'm really doing is I'm doing mise en place, and if you'll remember, mise en place is actually referring to doing all the prep before I start my work so that I don't affect the outcome of my recipe. The only other thing I need to do is my onion, and I'm going to do that actually as my shrimp cooks. So what I've got in this particular dish is simply 2 tablespoons of butter or ghee. Ghee is a fancy word for clarified butter, so you can clarify your own, you can buy it in a jar, whichever you prefer. I'm using ghee today, and the reason I'm using ghee is because all the milk solids are out of it, so it's not going to enhance the browning of my dish, because I don't really want this brown. I just want things cooked well, and I want that flavor of butter behind me. So you can be concerned a little bit about how much fat's in here, but we're going to talk about that later. I've turned this up to a nice high heat because I want to really do my shrimp as quickly as I can. I'm going to go ahead and add that ghee into my beautiful skillet so it can start to melt while I talk to you about my shrimp. I've got a nice bowl of shrimp here. These were frozen at one point, and they're shelled and deveined. I prefer to buy them shell and deveined. You can buy it that way in a bag. You can also buy it that way at the fishmonger. It's important that you tell them how many shrimp per pound, because that helps you understand how much it affects the size. So these are 31-40 count. I like a 31-40 count because that's about the right size for a bite. I don't need it larger because I'm not making an appetizer and I want to stuff it. I'm not putting this into a shrimp cocktail. This is a dish. You'll notice I've left the tails on, and that's because this shell is actually going to bring flavor to my dish and a vibrancy and color when I plate. You know, it's, for me, I prefer to buy it already cleaned, and the reason for that is when I clean them, they kind of remind me of bugs, and I have trouble eating them later. So what I prefer to do is go ahead and have them clean for me, and that cleaning allows me to, usually I'll ask the monger if he can save it for me so I can make a beautiful stock later. Here to sizzle, just absolutely beautiful there in my dish. I've got a pair of tongs here because what I want to be able to do is I want to spread these out into a nice single layer, just like this. Shrimp don't take long to cook. Pardon me for pointing a tool at you. We want to cook them lightly. We don't want them all the way through because the carryover heat will actually cook them for us. When shrimp are overcooked, they're dry and they're tough. Our goal is to maintain that beautiful sweetness of them, so it really gives us something yummy in that dish. So, as we're listening to those beautiful shrimp do their thing, I'm going to pull one out for you so you can see how quickly they cook. Look at that. Just that fast, I've already got the color that I'm looking for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stir those up a little bit by making sure that I'm getting everybody nice and pink and opaque, meaning they're changing color to white. I've done half this onion already in anticipation of you coming because I knew I had a limited time to be able to show you everything I wanted to. Last time we did our Moroccan couscous, we used a beautiful yellow onion, and I want to repeat that cut. So this was once a whole onion. I cut lengthwise and ended up with two halves, each one having some of the hairy end and some of the stem end. What I'm going to do is rinse my knife, get rid of that cilantro. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut down, and I'm going to remove that stem end. I'm going to go back to my shrimp. Now notice I'm doing this in real time. The reason I want to do this one in real time for you is to show you just how quickly you too can get your dinner done, which is always a good deal. We're all in a hurry, all got a lot to do these days. And you're probably managing all kinds of other things while we do this. So, go ahead and put our cut side down that's safe. Use that beautiful palm of your hand. We're going to cut horizontally back toward that root ball, but not through it. I pull my knife out slowly and gently, and I've done it again. Now I'm going to take that tip end, and I'm going to go back toward my root ball, slice it all the way through, and now I'm going to cut down, just like that. Now I've got a nicely, finely chopped up onion, and the idea is this is going to prevent waste and give me a beautiful finished product. See, they're all about the same size. And just like that, my shrimp are done. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get these guys scooped out of here real quick. I'm going to take them off the heat. Notice how high my flame is. That's exactly what I want, because this is one of those quick in and out kinds of dishes. All the while we're building beautiful flavors that your family is going to thank you for later. I'm just removing them into a plate. We're just going to let them rest. I'm going to spread them out so they don't sit on top of each other and cook. I'm going to turn that down to a medium low, and I'm going to add that absolutely beautiful chopped onion. That was the first half I did before you got here. I'm going to go ahead and add our second half. Notice our sizzle isn't quite as loud as it was when we got started with this, and that's okay. Give that a quick stir. All we're looking for is I want to get a nice coating of the ghee on these beautiful onions because I want them to start to become translucent. Translucent is a fancy word for they're just beginning to get to the point where we can see through them. In this dish, I have a couple cloves of garlic, 4 specifically that I've minced finely. You can also use the kind that are in a jar. This would be about 2 teaspoons worth. And I'm going to go ahead and add those to our onions in this early phase. And give that a nice stir. As we all know, garlic burns very, very quickly. So that's why we want to add it at this point, and we're only going to cook things for a short while. I'm going to turn down just a little bit because I'm getting a little bit of browning, and that's not exactly what I was going for. So I've got some translucency going. Time to start getting exciting. Here I have 2 tablespoons of a beautiful curry powder that was brought to me by my neighbors. Add that in. Give it a stir. Wish you were here right now. Wow, does it smell good. My husband, this is going to be my husband's dinner tonight, so he's sitting over there watching me doing that going, how much longer till dinner is ready? I'm going to let that come together for about another 2 minutes. My onions are beginning to almost be where I want them to be, so I'm going to keep an eye on them. Go back to this curry powder. This 2 tablespoons of curry powder, as I said, was curry powder delivered to me personally by the neighbors as a thank you gift, probably for house sitting their goldfish while they were in Egypt. Being in the culinary industry is a pretty lucky thing to do in a lot of different ways because people come up with some gorgeously wonderful things to share with you on their travels. So, we haven't quite been 2 minutes yet, but I do want to take a look back over here and see what's going on. My onions, oh boy, they smell good. And I've got that translucency that I'm looking for. I'm not sure you're going to be able to capture it from the distance that we're at. Use my chef's fingers. But you can actually kind of see a little bit that you can almost see through them. So we're ready for the next phase. And this is where it gets fun. So I've got a 13.5-ounce can of coconut milk. Listen to it sizzle when I add here. Boy, does that look good. So this 13.5-ounce can, this is particularly the brand I used today was Thai. Please don't use this stuff in the carton. The stuff in the carton is great for your smoothies. It's good for your oatmeal and a couple of other yummy things, but it's not necessarily what we want to be able to use for this. I want the unctuousness of the fat. Remember, that fat is going to carry through and make an absolutely delicious palate coat that's going to carry all those flavors that I want to bring with me. So the next thing I've got is 2 tablespoons of honey. Back to that lucky girl as a culinarian. This is from a friend's hive. But to make it easy for my mise en place, I actually sprayed this little cup with a little bit of nonstick spray, and I sprayed my tablespoon as well. That way things come out nice and easy. Looky there. Gorgeous honey. So, honey's better for your glycemic index, and one that, see, we're empty. So it's a healthier way for you to go about doing some of these things in terms of flavor. We're just going to add a tiny, tiny little bit of salt, just a quarter of a teaspoon. I'm going to turn this down a little bit because I've got that gorgeous simmer that I was looking for. And I want that to continue to simmer because it's going to reduce just a little bit. Boy, I am getting excited about this. All right, so let's talk about the basil that's in this dish. Here I have 13 like-sized basil leaves, just plain old basil. And we're going to do a chiffonade cut. Chiffonade is fancy French terminology in the culinary industry for a ribbon cut. So I'm going to take about 6 of them at a time. I've stacked them up, and I'm going to roll them tightly. Nice and tightly. So I've got sort of a cigarette or cigar looking shape to it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my knife. I'm going to go up on the tip. I'm going to change my knife out. I'm not happy with that one. Use this one, up on the tip, and I'm going to do about 1/8 of an inch in this cut. I just love using my knife. It just makes me feel so accomplished in the kitchen, and I love the magic that happens when I use it the correct way. So just like that, I have a beautiful little ribbon cut on that gorgeous basil. This is going to add so much to our dish. we who are not used to cooking with herbs, etc., but usually focus more on salt and pepper and sugar. When it comes to cooking with things like fresh basil and cilantro and all these wonderful herbs and spices, it really transforms the way we eat. So I encourage you to stay away from that dish of salt and pepper. Do things like this, basil. Whew. So we're going to go ahead and finish our chiffonade. There it is. Now, the idea is that we're not going to use all of that on our dish. About 1/3 of it will be put aside to act as a garnish. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to check on this. It's simmering. Not sure if you guys can see it yet, but it's got a beautiful, vibrant color. The aromas are just absolutely spectacular. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide those beautiful shrimp back in with their sauces and juices that have been sitting on the plate. And we're going to let that simmer for just a few more minutes, just to get everything back up to temp while we finish our cilantro rice. This couldn't get easier, guys. So, our rice is ready to go. Remember that those cilantro and that lime zest that we had previously? In it goes. I'm going to fluff with my fork so that everything gets put together. Oh, the aroma of this is just making me want to take a bite, but that's going to have to wait till we get it all together, isn't it, guys? Okay. Put our lid back on, let that heat wilt that just a little bit. Remember that lime that we zested before? Here's our big moment. I cut it in half, and I am now going to take this and I am going to actually juice it right into our dish. This is the piece de resistance, as they say. Simplest way to do a lime or a lemon, orange for that matter, stick a fork in it and twist as you turn. You'll notice that your recipe says the juice of 1 lime. Well, limes come in all sizes, small, medium, large, extra big. It's your average medium-sized lime is what we're looking for. What this acid brings to the dish is it cuts some of the fat. It also acts as an acid that tightens up our sauce just a little bit. Oh boy, did that smell good, guys. Now comes the part, very important part, is we need to taste our dish. Separate spoon. This is not going back in the pool after we're done. I want to taste it because what I'm tasting for is, do I need more curry? Do I need more lime juice? I'm going to stay away from that salt. I'm going to use these natural flavors to enhance. Let's see if it's cool enough. Wow. Oh boy, my husband's going to be happy with me tonight. That's good stuff. So I'm going to turn my heat off, and we are ready to plate. Let's talk a little bit about the plating. You can do this individually, but what I've done is I've selected just a beautiful green, vibrant plate that's going to echo the colors of my rice and enhance the presentation. So while I'm waiting to do this, we've got our basil. I turn the heat off. Now's the moment when I'm going to take that basil. I'm going to sprinkle it right over this, reserving about 1/3 for the top. Give it that last final stir. This is so pretty. Wait till you see this on the plate. Absolutely going to be gorgeous. So, our rice is ready for us. I'm going to use it on the base. Put it right here onto my plate. You could do this as individual servings. You could use this just as a nice big bowl of beautiful rice right there on the table. And next to it a bowl of this. I'm going to get every bit of this because I have a feeling this is going to be a hit tonight. Put that aside, and now I'm ready to go ahead and plate my beautiful shrimp. Look at that. Isn't that absolutely beautiful? This dish will actually serve 4. I'm going to plate enough for just my husband and I, which will be for the 2 of us tonight. Save the rest for a beautiful breakfast tomorrow morning. I might take some of this extra sauce, drizzle a little here, and maybe even put a little bit in a pitcher beside just to go with it. Our recipe calls for us to sprinkle a little bit more of that basil. You could certainly do that. I saved one that I had trimmed earlier so that I could take those pretty leaves and put it right in the center, because you know how I feel about beautiful plates. So, we did this together in about 10 or 12 minutes. Not bad at all. what I'd like to suggest to you is that you make sure that you check the description portion underneath our video today. That'll take you to the recipe. Next week, I'm excited to share with you the height of blueberry season. Now's a great time to take the kids and go ahead and go do some blueberry picking. And what we're going to do next week is we're going to make a beautiful blueberry and lemon galette, which is fancy French pâtissier or pastry instruction for a single pie crust that we're actually going to fill with some beautiful blueberries treated in a special way that is open crusted, there's nothing on the top, and is not cooked inside a pie plate but on a sheet pan. Comes together quickly, it can bake while dinner's in the oven, serve it with a little bit of ice cream, and you are a happy kid. So that'll be next week. Please send us a note at A Taste of VACE at adultedventura.edu, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Stay safe and well, and be sure to play with your food, because I sure have fun that way. Take care.